It's about that time to give the Porsche 911 991 an oil change. This will cover a lot of other models. I'm going to show you what others don't show and missed all the way to resetting the message on the dash. Let's go. My local Porsche dealer in California charges $600 for an oil change. The recommended oil for this 911 is Mobil 1 50840. You need a crush washer for the oil pan plug, so when you tighten, there's no leak, and last, you need an oil filter. I purchased the oil filter and crush washer from Pelican Parts, which I have no affiliation with. Oh yeah, and it comes with a rubber O-ring, which you'll need, and the oil from Walmart. All of this with tax and shipping was $109. First thing, let's warm this up to lower the viscosity. For the lame person, making it less thick. So the oil flows smooth when we open the drain plug. I let the car warm around 100 degrees. I don't want to have it too hot, having it potentially burn my fingers when the drain plug comes off. While the car is warming, these are the tools I'm going to use. An oil drain pan, which this one is 15 quarts, plenty to make sure there's no overflow. They say this 911 takes 7.5 quarts. An oil funnel when I put oil back into the engine. A rubber pad for the jack when I jack the car up by the jack points. A torque wrench and an 8mm Allen head. Some rags and plastic for overflow to minimize the mess. A diagnostic scanner specific for this model 991 to reset the instrument panel, and a 36mm socket head for the oil filter cover. Last, a wheel stop, or in my case, a brick. I'm going to jack up the opposite side where the wheel stop is and slide under the rhino rams. At this point, the car is warmed up with the engine off and the parking brake on. The wheel stop on the same side as I'm jacking up would be useless. Now that I set the car down, that wheel goes down. Now for the other side. Car's jacked up and ready. Laid the overspill plastic down, and right there is the oil plug. The pan is in place. Let's pop the engine compartment. By the way, if a front trunk is a frunk, what's it called when an engine is in the rear? I guess just a rear engine compartment, which is a bit boring. I'll just call it a motor booty. I think I just started something. You heard it from here, it was invented here. Hey buddy, open that motor booty. Now open the motor booty and loosen the oil cap. This will let some air in while we take off the oil pan plug. This drain plug should be torqued at 37 pounds. I loosened it and slowly doing the rest by hand. At this point, the oil is probably around 80 degrees. Wait for it. Wait for it. Not too bad, and the oil doesn't look bad either. It really is not that dark. Right here is the crush washer. We'll replace this with a new one. While the oil is draining, let's go back to the motor booty. Trademark how to go. First thing is, there's a little plastic piece that will come right off. This cooling fan cover snaps right out by pulling up gently. The connection points are on all four corners. Pull close from the connection points to not risk bending the plastic. There's the plug, and this is where they snap into. The cover connects to the fans. We'll put this to the side. The back of the fan pulls up, and the front you'll want to pull towards you. There is an electrical connector. Just flip the plastic and pull slightly, and the connector disengages. There you go, really simple to take off. The other side needs to come off, but you can leave the connector connected. And we'll put this fan to the side. Next, this air intake needs to come off, and this also simply snaps off. Now we have a really good view and access to the oil filter. To loosen the oil filter cap, this is where we need the 36mm socket. To avoid oil sneaking out onto the engine, I'll catch drops with the rags. Look at that, nice and cozy. Now, best to use an extension. This should be tightened to about 16 foot-pounds of pressure, so it's not tight. I'm going to keep loosening this counterclockwise. Having a longer extension would have been better. I'm being careful not to scratch the car, but the rest I could loosen by hand. The cover is in a tight spot, but with some positioning, it comes right out, exposing the filter. Again, to minimize the mess, I'll use this plastic bag to grab the filter and turn it over. I think it's a good idea to look at the filter to make sure there aren't any metal fragments or anything else that shouldn't be showing up. My filter looks good, just needs new fresh oil. The new filter is the same on both sides. Putting in the new filter can be a bit tricky. It needs to sit firmly in. A good way to make sure it's going in center is to look through the hole and work the filter side by side to slip it on. You'll know it's on because the filter won't be loose. It will fit firmly. For the filter cap, the old rubber seal needs to come off. Look at that. I can't get away from a little mess. If that's the worst of it, I'm in good shape so far. Rub a little oil around the new rubber seal. Make sure the seal is down to the bottom of the threads. Here's a good close-up. Secure the cap on the top. I try to screw this on by hand as much as I can. I want to make sure to put this on correctly and not to force the cap on. It's easy to strip these plastic threads. I'm tightening carefully to 19 foot-pounds. There you go, the click to indicate the torque has been met. And another good indication the cover's on straight is by feeling around to make sure it's lying flat. Perfect. Now we're going to put everything back together. If you forgot the order, First is the air intake. This cable is in the way, but pretty easy to go under it. There are two snap points at the top, one here and one here. Now the two fans. We'll start with the one on the left. Push forward and then down. Now the right side fan. And the fan cover. Remember, those plugs are going to snap on top of the fan. First we need to do is carefully work this rubber piece around. Once through, snap the cover on at all the connection points. Now the small plastic piece which goes on the top rib. Let's see how the oil is doing. Looks like it finished draining. Here's the brand new crush washer. I'm going to tighten this by hand. Then I'm going to use my torque wrench to 37 foot-pounds. Spray it down with some cleaner. Seal up the oil drain pan and get this out of the way. It's about that time to lower the car. Here goes the other side. It's time to fill the car back up with brand new fresh oil. You really have to do this slow. Take breaks in between to let the oil go down. This tends to overflow pretty easy. In other words, I warned you, take your time. At this point, I'm 5 quarts in. I'm going to put in another 2 quarts, making it 7 total, and then warm the car up and see where the oil level's at. Nice and slow. Okay, I'm about 7 quarts total. The 991 is supposed to take 7.5 quarts total, but you absolutely don't want to overfill the engine with oil. This could ruin the engine. The car won't have a reading on the oil levels right away. You'll need to warm up the engine. Right now the engine is almost 200 degrees, and I'll turn off the motor and have the car sit for about a minute. Check the oil level, and now I get a readout. I'm at the minimum. I'll put in a half a quart and the level went up a notch. I put in another half a quart and it went up 2 notches. I'll put in a little bit more and now it shows at the maximum. Once you get to a certain point on the readout, it doesn't take much oil to make it jump to full, so you have to be careful. Again, oil is good, but overfilling very bad. Once you get the readout and you're filling it up, you can keep checking and the readout will update as you put more oil in. Now we need to reset the instrument panel so the change oil now message doesn't keep coming up. I'm using the iCarsoft diagnostic tool. It will not only reset the oil light, but it will also reset other service intervals. This device is about $125. It pays for itself on the first oil change. There is no way I'm aware of to do a reset unless you use a diagnostic tool. I have another video that goes into details of this tool and its features. There'll be a link at the end of this video. The cover snaps off and you'll see a purple connector. The other end is going into it, and this will power up the unit. We'll go to service and hit enter. Then oil reset and select enter again and walk through the instructions. I just want oil service. And now turn on the ignition and enter in today's date. The computer will adjust for the next service to be 12 months from now. And confirm with the readout saying application complete. Turn on the key, press enter here, go to info, service intervals, and then scroll to oil change. You'll see it reset for the next change at 10,000 miles or 12 months, whichever comes first. At this point, the oil message won't come up every time you turn the car on until the next change is due. That's it. I hope this helped, and if it did, let me know by giving me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe.